Today's deep dive, we're going to be going into one of my favorite factions in Heavy Gear Blitz, Eden. The history of Eden started with the human Concordat emerging from a recession, which initiated the exploration of a third Townhauser gate within the Atlantis gate system. This led them to a planet which would be known as Eden, which was approximately 22,000 light years away from Earth, with a livable climate and such. Initial visual scans were highly encouraging, showing stable atmosphere, oceans, flora on its landmass, and following this discovery, an exploration team was sent to the planet's surface. They established multiple research laboratories, and within a few months, they had collected data which confirmed Eden was a semi-tropical world with natural resources and a life similar to Earth, featuring shallow seas that supported a carbon-based ecosystem. The team reported these impressive findings back to the Concordat. Soon after the report, the Udanar Corporation became the sole bidder and purchased the rights to Eden, which was in a corporate press conference in October of 5428 AD. Udanor President Farinir SEM officially named the planet Eden. Udanor had been developing the necessary industries for colonization for a century and saw Eden as a perfect opportunity to apply their ecological models. They immediately mobilized teams to begin a detailed survey to catalog Eden's geology, geography, and ecology while simultaneously establishing colony stations on its continents. The terraforming process began once the bulk of Udanar staff was settled. Applying their theories of nanogenomic modeling, scientists introduced genetically engineered nanorhinoviruses to native plants and animals. These nanorhinoviruses acted as evolutionary catalysts, accelerating genetic changes and molding the planet into a paradise tailored for human life within around a single generation. This effort was done by scientists through networks of AI-controlled drones. A discovery of this enormous undersea reserves of methane hydrate provided readily accessible energy source that powered nearly all of the colony's infrastructure. Stories of the paradise on Eden reached Earth, inspiring thousands to leave their life on Earth or anywhere else and begin the journey across space to find Eden. To maintain a steady flow of colonists for building infrastructure, Udanar reduced much of the expensive travel, which placed a significant cost onto their own coffers. This high cost, however, kept immigration to a manageable level, meaning that there wasn't going to be an overpopulation and lead problems of space and such. Despite Eden's success, its distance from Earth limited its ability to contribute trade going on from all the colonies on Earth, and it was just a very big financial burden to support this colony. Udanar attempted to generate income by its terraforming services. Um, this worked partially, um, but this would eventually lead a continuous financial drain, which would lead to Udanar declaring bankruptcy later on. But following the bankruptcy, the colonists on Eden, with support from ex-Udanar executives, found a legal loophole in the contract. After going to court, they purchased Eden from the remnants of Udanar for less than 1% of its value. The human Concordat, they just funded the single cargo transport for the payment, but found any further action too costly to pursue. So free from corporate control, Eden society thrived in slush environment, leading into the dissolution of poverty and wealth disparity. Two distinct cultures emerged: the Glenni, who dedicated themselves to living in harmony with nature, and the Rohim, who focused on technological advancement. Um, Eden would eventually shift towards like a former of cooperative kind of competition. Um, from 5458 to 5512, there was no contact between Eden and Earth. A small diplomatic government was formed in 5015 AD to represent Eden to the Concordat, but travel remained infrequent. By 5790, news of Earth's political and economic instability reached Eden, though the Edenites and, just the people of Eden weren't concerned because it wasn't their problem. They were living a fine life. But eventually, after a mutiny aboard a gate ship, whose crew chose to settle on Eden, and two visits from Atlantean gate ships in 5799 and 5809 AD, all contact with anyone outside of this galaxy their local little star system ceased. Edenites just kind of assumed that rest of civilization was kind of gone and they were kind of just living their life. Though, during its isolation, Eden became technologically self sufficient and developed space assets which could rival Earth's. Um, though, in probably error, the Edenites experimented with creating small scale townhouser gates, and this was a failed experiment, which triggered a catastrophic townhouser event accident thingy, which was just a massive gravitational explosion that destabilized the asteroid belt around their solar system, or their planet, sending swarms of asteroids toward the planets. Eden was struck by dozens of asteroids, and it killed 90% of their population and transformed this paradise into a barely livable hellscape. In the apocalyptic aftermath, a new hierarchy formed around powerful families, which would evolve into the noble houses we know today, and they would forge these amazing, powerful kingdoms, and they and to make sure that everyone was kind of mediating and making sure conflict didn't get out of hand, and to hopefully become united, they formed the Gan Eden Confederacy, which was formed almost 100 years before the current events of Gear Blitz. Planet slowly healed, but the perfectly balanced ecosphere was gone, and the asteroid belt would always now be a looming threat at the back of all Edenites' minds. Years later, the arrival of the CEF through an interstellar gate would cause a second Townhauser accident. This destabilized the asteroid belt once again, causing further devastation on Eden, and it killed 10% of the population. As the planet struggled with a new disaster, CEF invaded. The scattered kingdoms were unable to mount a coordinated defense. The Sith Empire, possessing the largest military, would eventually back off and stop the fighting in less than a week in exchange for a position of power. The other kingdoms were soon forced to swear fealty, and Eden officially became a reclaimed Earth colony. The CEF immediately used the Sith Empire to invade and subjugate the Duchy of Rama and the Bagath Protectorate. Eventually, the CEF would task the Sith with organizing the planet's military forces for the invasion of Terra Nova. Though guerrilla war would still be waged against the CEF from the monarch of Riesling, the Tiamat sovereignty, and the Audouth kingdom. The Audouth kingdom, secretly aided by the Black Talon, grew bolder in its attacks. Eventually, the CEF captured Black Talon operatives and would find that the Audouth were actually conspiring against them. So they decided to make an example of the Audouth, and they would bombard them from orbit, completely erasing their capital from the map and killing hundreds of thousands of people in the process. They pushed this as an anti-terrorist act, but this terrified many Edenites, including the Seyth Empire. However, even though the Audith kingdom lays in shambles, the legacy endures. Before its invasions, the leaders had started a secret project to restart, refurbish secret or forgotten automated factory satellites in orbit around one of their planets in the solar system, which was by Eden. And Lady Gabriel of the Dragoon Mary Consortium, which was the military figure and leader of the Audouth, now is in control of these factories. And upon learning of this destruction of Edom, their capital, she swore revenge and is gearing up the factories to produce weapons of war. And she has the Black Talons at her side, waiting for the right moment to strike against the CF and the CF Empire. Though the monarch of Raisling, the Tiamat sovereignty, and the merchant houses of Kur has secretly pledged their support, though they remained cautious after what had happened to the Audouth Empire. This is all of the current lore for Eden, and I'm excited to see where they go and where they grow. But now we go on to the Eden specific upgrades and rules. You have your Lancers, which just means any golem can for 2 TV can get a medium spike gun with reach 2 and react. And they get a lance, and it gives them brawl 2, or if they already had brawl, just +1 to their brawl. And their special rule, Joust you say, is pretty much you just use your jetpacks, and if you have to move at least 4 inches and perform a melee action, your medium spike gun is then treated as a heavy spike gun because of the momentum and such. And then lastly, they get allies from the Black Talon, CF Utopia, or Caprice. Now, the first Edenite sublist is the EIF. They get veteran leaders, so for any commander, they can get the vet trait without counting against veteran limitations. They then also get Improvisio, which allows them to select one upgrade option from the ENH or AEF, which are the two other sublists for Eden. And then lastly, well, not lastly, but they get Expert Marksman, which means any golem with a rifle may increase their gunnery skill by one, just for the cost of one TV. And Equity, this just means they can take the capture objective no matter what the combat group's role is. So that's nice. And then the ENH, they get champions, which means they get one duelist per combat group. And this force, cannot use independent operator rules for duelists. They also have Ishara, which it's pretty much just the poor man's lance. So for one TV, the halberd is considered a medium vibroblade with reach 1, and then models with the halberd gain the brawl 1 trait or add +1 to their existing brawl trait if they have it. Where this is kind of good in the sense of, well, my guy already has brawl 1. Would a lance be worth that 2 TV to or just get 2 brawl when I can do it for 1? So it wouldn't be taking advantage of the joust you say rule. So that is something to take in consideration. They also have well supported, where one model per combat group may select one veteran upgrade without being a veteran. And assertion. This force may select the flag objective no matter the combat group's role. And then last, for their last sublist, they have the AEF. They have Improvisio, which means they can just select one upgrade from the EIF or the ENH. Secondly, they have self-made, and that just means veteran golems may purchase duelist upgrades, although it's only limited to duelist melee upgrade, dual melee weapons, and shield. They also have waterborne, meaning their infantry receive their frogman upgrade, which also receive a gunnery of a 3-up. And lastly, Freeblade. Constable and man-at-arms get to take the concert trait for -1 TV. Commanders, veterans, and duelists may not take this upgrade. The thing is, it only applies to Constable and man-at-arm golems, so I don't know why you'd even have them as veterans or duelists, but that's something to consider. Um, the standout equipment for Eden, I feel one of them being is the rotary cannon, just because it kind of caters to how Eden is kind of plays, which is the close get in your face faction, close range beasts and monsters. And being able to just roll 4d6 in optimal range is amazing, and 3d6 out of optimal range, or if you had just top speeded, is awesome. And that's not even including if you had, use the order of let them have it, which you could very much wreak some havoc. Especially with, you know, units that have good gunnery skills, this thing is going to pack a punch. And then, secondly, vibro blades with reach and or lances. So pretty much just any melee weapon is just kind of the bread and butter for Eden. Or especially the things with reach, as they allow you to get that you don't have to be in base to base contact, and you can still throw out a lot of because Eden has a lot of brawl. You can throw out a ton of dice at ranged, and like most melee weapons have high AP and high damage, so it just allows you to kind of stand back, poke them, and make sure you get in that maneuverable, like desirable positions. Then lastly, jump packs and jets. Um, these play into Joust You Say rules because you need jump packs to be able to move that 4 inches because it specifically says with your jump pack you must move with at least 4 inches to make your medium spike gun considered a heavy spike gun. But this pretty much allows you to ignore a lot of terrain and just move over and such, which is really nice. And it allows them to be quite a mobile army and to get into positions that they need and would like and really advantageous positions. Um, And then we also have the units I feel stand out. It's a hard time for me choosing which 3 I really enjoy. I was debating about between the Animus and the Serpentina. I just feel like a lot of the Eden units are quite good and have a purpose. I considered the Warlock. It's just, in my opinion, it's only reason why to consider it is because it gets ECM plus. But then again, the only thing that makes it interesting is that it gets plus. Or technically, yeah. Though firstly, I will say the Centaur is one of my first picks because it's pretty cheap, being 8 threat value base. It has a hover and 8 inches of movement alongside Jetpack 6 and Brawl 1. Makes it just a great choice for the Lance upgrade or the Shara upgrade. It's just a fast maneuverable unit that can get into positions and it can pack a punch in melee, which is what you're kind of wanting to do with Eden. And secondly, we have the Doppels. This is just like another great candidate for the Lance upgrade. As its armor 7, it has a shield, meaning you get to reroll the attacks in the front arc, which is great. Brawl 1 and Jetpack 8 make them very fast and just very survivable. Um, and they're quite good for their cost of like 11 to 12, sometimes even 13 threat value. They're very just much worth it because how much like equipment and power they just bring to the table. As they also come equipped with a medium rotary cannon, and as you can see, having something that can re-roll attacks originating from the front arc with standing in the open, charging an enemy, and being able to whittle them down at range until they can get close range and just absolutely murder them with their melee weapon. And lastly, in my opinion, the last standout unit is the Serpentina. You do have the Gargoyle, which is similar, but I just feel the Serpentina is just much more dangerous. As it's armor 10, it has a medium tank gun, which you can basically cripple or kill a Gear Strider in one shot. And while being freakishly fast with Hover 7 and Jump Jets 2, allows it to get around the field and be able to one shot a lot of units. Or for even bigger or scarier units, kind of invalidate them by making them crippled within one shot. You don't even have to roll good. You just have to get like a Martin SF1 and oh, there goes my Gear Strider, he's crippled. Or you could just one shot anything inferior to this. So those are the units I feel like that stand out for Eden. And then pros and cons of Eden. Pros, they're just amazing at melee because most of their units have brawl. And then they have upgrades which give more brawl and a melee weapon with range. And they just hurt in close range. And they have a really cheap E-War platform with ECM Plus for only 7 threat value, which is amazing. And they're surprisingly quite mobile, as you have quite a few access to hover and VTOL units. And to add on top of that, most everything has jetpacks, so you're allowed to kind of just circumnavigate that terrain really easy. The other cons are they have one dedicated E-War platform, being the Warlock. And long range really isn't their thing, but like in as most factions in this game, you can play them however you want. They're just better at melee than shooting off and plinking away at you at a long range. You should play Eden if you like the idea of mobile feudalistic gear force running up the field, or flying with their jetpacks to get in close range, or preferably in melee and butchering their enemies with a wide array of units that range from lightly armored units to heavily armored units that will definitely cut your gear in half. Thanks for watching. Signing off.